All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Spotlight on Addiction and Recovery. I am Scott Jones, as you know, thrilled to be back here. We spend a lot of time talking to people who possibly work in treatment, have recovery themselves, have been through the issues with addiction. And today, I'm really excited because Brianne's here. And Brianne, you're from Archstone Behavioral Health.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I keep wanting to say Archstone Recovery because it rolls off the tongue.
Right.
All right. Archstone Behavioral Health.
Correct.
And what do you do there, Brianne?
I am what do I do there?
What do you do?
I'm like drawing
you do
a blank.
everything.
I do everything. Yes, except for therapy.
You like chief bottle washer, everything, right?
Clean toilets.
Yeah, but that's the whole system there. Is everybody pitches in?
Kiss babies.
You could. Honestly, your title there is?
I'm the director of operations.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right. But this isn't like other places where director of operations sits up on the 7th floor, never talks to anybody.
No, this is like down and dirty operations.
Because you don't even have a 7th floor.
Right.
So that's first thing.
Yeah. We only have 2.
But I notice when I come to visit you, one of the things that I am gobsmacked by most of the time is when I walk in and the clients feel free to speak to anyone.
Yes.
Including you.
Exactly.
You know.
We have very open door policy at Archstone. So the clients are constantly in my office talking, asking for things. Most of the time it's just talking, wanting somebody to just listen. So they know I'm in recovery.
Okay.
I don't keep that. That's not my thing, as I feel very open with my own personal recovery with the clients. So sometimes they just want somebody that they can talk to that they know is in recovery as well. So
I want to talk about that, you being open with your recovery in a minute, but because I think that's really important, and I don't think enough people are. And
right.
We'll talk about that. But so this whole Archstone vibe we'll talk about, this open door policy. It's funny because you almost roll your eyes a little bit. They're constantly in my office, but would you want it any other way?
No, absolutely not. Only on days where I'm really, really busy.
Well,
so
I mean, we all get that.
Yeah,
we do that with our kids.
And sometimes I hang a sign on my door, and I'm like, not today. And they laugh at it, and they still come in.
Well, there you go.
But no, I wouldn't want it any other way.
Do you think that's a more effective way to treat clients than to have all those levels where you talk to this person, you don't talk to that person?
Right. Because
we see that a lot in some of these bigger rehabs.
Yeah. I think it's important because they know that we're all there for them all the time. Not even just clients, the staff, because, every department has a department head,
Right.
So, and then, but I want all the staff to know that my door's open at all times. If they have an issue, if they just want to talk about something that's going on with them, I want them to feel comfortable. So it's more of a family type environment, more than, not a corporate environment where it's like, here's the director of operations, but you never see her unless something's wrong, Well,
let's be honest about it. I mean, this is a very stressful industry.
Right.
It's a very stressful job. It's a very stressful industry. And to have any kind of barriers where, the employees, if no one else, the employees, if they feel like they can't be heard or they can't, vent or talk to people, that makes things very difficult.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We've seen that with the levels and the BHTs who want to say something to the executive director, but they don't feel like they have a right to say anything.
Right.
But that's not the case here.
Absolutely not. No. The staff actually makes jokes. Like if I have my door shut because I'm just trying to get something done, they can still come in, but they'll text me or send me an email and they say, excuse me, your door is not open and we have an open door policy here. And I'm like, just come in, it shuts because I'm just trying to have some quiet to get stuff done. But yeah, so it's great.
It's really kind of more of a real world situation to have that kind of almost dysfunctional family feel.
Yes.
Because clients can thrive within that. They can feel comfortable. I mean, nothing's perfect, and to portray something as being perfect and orderly really doesn't make sense when you're dealing with somebody who is so out of control.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I love that.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I wouldn't want it any other way. So
that's fantastic. And we could probably go on all day about moments when you've been able to be involved in clients' recovery, and as a CEO, a CFO, even an executive director, all these different roles. Sometimes they don't get the those moments of being involved in the recovery itself.
Right.
Yeah, I understand there's a business to run. I understand
Yeah.
you got to keep the doors open. You got to pay the electric bill. You got to
Mm-hmm.
do certain things. You got to deal with the insurance. But at the end of the day, if you're not having that experience with those clients, then it's kind of a thankless job, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Marie is our clinical director.
Yes.
And Marie and I are known at Archstone as the AMA blockers, because we can sit down with the clients and get through to them somehow. I don't know if it's just my experience, my own recovery personally, but we just sit down and level with them and, talk to them about why they want to leave and why it's not a good idea. And they listen 99% of the time. If
Absolutely.
somebody's freaking out or somebody's
Yeah.
having a meltdown in group, they always call me because I'm like the client whisperer.
If you're watching and you're not sure, AMA is against medical advice. It's where a client might be coming in for a 28-day or a 30 or a 45-day stay. And after just a few days or a week or so, they start to get a little antsy.
High
Sometimes
cravings.
it's because they want to go use. Sometimes it's simply because they feel trapped.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a million different reasons, is the truth. But AMA is against medical advice where they want to leave. And when she's talking about blocking, you're talking about putting yourself in the path of that to make sure that they have the best chance of making a better choice.
Absolutely.
You can't stop everybody.
Cannot stop everybody. And we know that. But we just, we want to see them all get better. So we know that they all don't get better. And that's not reality. But we try to do our best to just sit them down and talk to them. I mean, just person to person. It's not like, if you leave AMA, these are going to be your consequences. It's like, hey, what's going on and why do you want to leave?
Yes.
Are you having cravings? Do you miss your family? Like, do you miss your kids? Like, whatever the case is, let's sit down and talk about it. Because ultimately, if they stay in complete treatment and remain successful in their sobriety, they're going to have an amazing life. And that's all we want.
Absolutely. I mean, there's no other reason to do this business.
Right.
We've seen people, we were talking off camera before, that we've seen, unfortunately, people who have taken advantage of people who are suffering.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not just rehabs. It's been going on in hospitals and doctors' offices and
Yeah.
for years, where they bilk insurance companies. They try to, get as much as they can out of it. But thank God they're catching these people. They're shutting them down.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening. So now, unless you truly have the right motives, you don't belong here.
Right.
And I know for a fact, Archstone, you guys show yourselves
Yeah.
as having those motives of, we want to help people.
Right. We're
And
very
that's-
transparent.
And that's
Yeah.
great. Now, speaking of transparency, and I mentioned it, you said something about you're very open about your recovery.
Right.
There's other people that aren't. Why are you so open about it?
I think it's easier for me because this has been my entire life. I grew up in and around treatment centers. My mom's in long-term recovery. My grandfather was in long-term recovery. And I was just raised that it's nothing to be, not that people that don't discuss it are ashamed of it, but I feel like me personally, I can help more people if I'm open about it. So, you hear it a lot working in treatment. I've worked in treatment for 20 years.
Right.
It's been a long time. And I don't agree with it, but a lot of the clients think, like, you can only help me if you've gone through it yourself. So the therapists that are working in treatment centers who are not necessarily in recovery but have had years and years of schooling, they're like, how you don't know what I've been through. So I don't agree with that, but I also have that transparency with the clients because I feel like if they want to, if they are looking for something to relate to, they can, I can be one of those outlets for them. So
I think what I found is I'm certainly, you don't have to be an addict or an alcoholic.
Absolutely not.
To help them. But I understand that the client's point of view is, if you haven't walked in my shoes, how are you possibly going to understand what I'm
Right.
feeling? I do understand that. Now, generally what happens, and because there's people like you, they can have that kind of safe zone where they can share those things as they slowly build that rapport with their therapist.
Right.
And a good therapist, even if the client's not trusting them at the start, will find a way. And I know the people at Archstone are good people, and they're very
Absolutely.
good at what they do. So it's good that there are people who are open, so that a client can say, well, I'm going to go talk to this person. At least they're talking to somebody to get
Yes.
open. and then you build from there.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people that don't talk about their recovery.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I think that if I were to view my recovery as a weakness not to be shown, it would be the end of me.
Yeah.
My recovery has to be my strength.
Yeah.
And my strengths can't be hidden. You're Superman, you got to fly.
Right.
Right?
I think there's a time and a place. I mean, work is certainly a safe place for me to talk about my recovery. I don't go around telling the whole world.
You don't wear the T-shirt? I'm an addict. Ask me about it.
And it's funny because this is something that happened to me like probably 5 or 6 years ago, where my youngest daughter, she's 14, but like 6 years ago, she joined gymnastics. And that quickly turned into, she became a competitive cheerleader. So when you're in a situation where you're around people that are normal, quote unquote, very far from normal, but they, normies, and they are, you don't want your kid, like for me personally, I don't want it to affect my children. So if I go around saying, hey, I'm in recovery and these are the substances I used to use, but I don't anymore because I went to rehab, maybe some parents would be like, oh, you're not going to have play dates with her because we don't know what her parents are doing. Or
right.
If I say like my ex-husband, her dad, used to smoke crack, but he doesn't anymore. He's in recovery. Doesn't look good.
No.
So I get that there's a time and a place to reveal your personal recovery. But work is a safe place for me. So, but there are people at work, through the few treatment centers that I worked at in the last 20 years, there's some people in recovery that don't want to reveal to the clients or other staff members that they're in recovery.
See, and I think that's a mistake, but they got to follow their own path.
Yeah.
Again, I can't view my recovery, which I'm very open about. But I agree. I mean, you don't just walk into a restaurant and say, I just want you to be aware you're sitting next to a recovering crackhead.
Right.
I don't want to do that.
Right.
It's
when the waitress
it's
comes
not
and says,
appropriate.
here's our wine list for the night, I'm like, oh no, I'm in recovery. Like, I don't do that. I'm just like, no, thank you. I'll have
But if somebody asks me, do you want to have a drink with me? And I'll say, no, I don't drink anymore.
Right.
If they ask more, I'll say, yes, I had a problem. I'm in recovery. I don't drink. I don't miss it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you know what? It makes people uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah. I had this great experience where we were out with some friends, and they didn't know me very well. It was a group of friends that my fiance was attached to. And they asked me, hey, Scott, you want to have a beer? And I said, no, I'm in recovery. I don't drink. Mm-hmm. And I thought I could leave it at that.
Right.
And they asked a couple of questions. So I said, yes, I drank too much, and now I don't drink anymore. And I'm perfectly fine. You go ahead and enjoy yourself. Mm-hmm. And I watched, and everyone around the table, each one took turns explaining to me how much they don't drink.
Right.
They were the ones who were uncomfortable. I wasn't uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
it's funny how that happens.
You got to have strength in that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the great things about recovery is finding strength in areas of your life you never thought you had, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we need that now more than ever.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot going on in this world.
There's a lot. With COVID, the political climate, which we don't talk politics on this show, but that's going to get, folks, it's going to get worse right now, not better.
I don't talk about politics, period.
No, I mean, it's
I'm not interested.
Really?
I'm not interested in the craziness. I like to keep my
life. It is
life.
insane.
Yeah.
Though.
It's just, even just getting on like Facebook or any kind of social media, everybody's like so hyped up about it. I'm like, why are you adding more stress to your life? Like, why?
I think we forget alcoholics and forget addicts or substance abuse users, or whatever it is, substance use disorders. How about normal people? We are attracted to chaos. Mm-hmm. We like to have problems. Right. We bring problems to ourselves. So I think sometimes fighting the addiction is easier than fighting the human condition, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's not really a fight. You just, you wake up in the morning and you do a few simple things for your own, what I do for my own personal recovery. And why battle? What is the battle?
The battle with addiction.
Right. I get it when you're first sober.
What do they believe the battle is, and then what is the truth of it?
I have something personal going on in my life with one of my children, and it's almost like the world's against me. It's like, and I'm like, wait, we have a really good life. You know, like you don't have a lot of stress in your life. You know, and whatever stress you do have, you have a whole support system behind you to help you through it. And it's just like, it's like the world's coming to an end. And I'm like, why don't you put yourself in somebody else's shoes? Why don't you drive over to John Prince Park and look at the people living in tents? You know, and it like puts things in perspective.
But I think when things, our personal feelings always kind of trump reason,
Right.
don't they?
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
And I guess this is it kind of leads us in a good direction here when we're talking about messaging to like parents whose children are having problems with alcohol and drugs, and they look around and they say, look at this, we got 2 cars in the driveway, we got a beautiful house, we got money in the bank, we got food on the table, the kid's dressed nice, and he's like depressed and he's destroying himself.
Right.
You know? And yet there could be down across town, there could be somebody who's got no money, who barely can make ends meet or feed their kids. The kid's got worn out clothes and lives in squalor, and he's feeling the exact same way as Richie Rich up the street.
Right.
So what exactly is that? How can you explain that to parents who say, I don't understand? How can that be? How can this kid who's got everything feel the same way this kid who's got nothing feels?
Well, I mean, I think that things happen in life, you know, whatever the circumstances are, whether it's a trauma, a loss, abuse, or, you know, somebody being bullied at school. It could be something so small, but when people internalize it, everybody internalizes things differently. So while there could be the same thing happening for both set of kids or teenagers or adults or whatever it is, but everybody deals with it differently. But it's like, okay, here's the issue, but now let's work on it.
But it's absolutely real to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't assign reason to it and show them a pie chart and say, look at all this.
Yeah, no.
No.
Absolutely not.
If somebody feels destroyed, they are destroyed. If somebody feels lonely, they are lonely.
Even if it's not facts.
Yeah, but
to them, it's facts.
To them, it's facts.
Yeah.
I mean, our perception is our reality. And
Right.
if their perception is that this is where they're at in their life, that's where they are. You know, and that's one of the things we do with our intervention trainings. We teach people, listen to what they're saying to you. Stop assigning
Right.
what they should be saying.
Right.
And I know you guys do that at Archstone. You listen very carefully to
Oh,
what the clients are
absolutely.
telling you, because each client needs, I mean, you've got like a common thread that runs through your programming, but you have to address each client individually with their
Yeah.
issues, right?
Everybody's different. Everybody's had some, you know, I mean, right now we have a military vet, so there's that, you know, and then we have, you know, a younger adult male who grew up in a really great family, had supportive parents, and had everything pretty much given to him. So you just never know, but you have to treat them all as individuals. It's not like cookie cutter, like everybody's going to do the same kind of treatment protocol, because it's not what's required.
I hate to put you on the spot, and it's probably going to be hard to answer, but I think a lot of people are thinking, I heard it over and over again. We tailor our program. It's
Right.
individual. Our programs are individualized. Meanwhile, they've got 200 clients.
Right.
I got to call BS on some of that.
Yeah.
But for somebody who's sitting at home listening to this right now and saying, okay, how do you reconcile and how do you individualize a program if you've got an Army vet, you know, sitting in one chair, the chair sitting next to him is the kid who was born with the proverbial silver spoon in his mouth, and he's had everything, was a sports star and got hooked on, you know, pills or something, and then some guy who just got out of jail
Right.
for armed robbery.
Yeah.
How do you effectively individualize things?
Yeah. That's a tough question. How I can answer that is that, you know, in the group setting, the groups are more educational into the addiction process, the brain, all of that stuff. And then when they're doing their individual therapy, that's when the real work is done.
Okay.
You know, we have therapists that are trained in family work and trained in EMDR and DBT, and, you know, so we can take whatever's going on with those specific humans internally and try to help them work it out while they're in treatment. I mean, there's no quick fix.
No.
And it just starts with us. So yes, we can have them anywhere from detox to, you know, a few other lower levels of care, but that's just the beginning. The real work is going to start once they get out too. So we always make sure that, if the military vet who starts DBT while they're in treatment with us to work out some of those trauma issues, they continue that when they leave. So we're looking for, outpatient therapists, IOP providers, psychiatrists. Like, we're making sure that they have a firm discharge plan in place, because can't do it all in 30 days. Can't do it all in 45 days or 60 days. This is going to be a lifelong thing that they need to continue to work on. So we just make sure that they're set up for success and not failure.
And I think that's the key to the success
Yeah.
of their recovery. I'm not going to say it's easy to stay clean and sober while you're in a treatment center, but it's certainly much easier than when you hit the streets and you have to deal
Absolutely.
with things. So you need all those tools in place. And you're telling me, but is there a lot of effort put into that?
Absolutely.
Because you get people from all over the place. You got
Yeah.
somebody from Topeka
Yeah.
one day and somebody from Pennsylvania
Yeah.
the next.
Yeah. And in a lot of places, we'll talk a lot of a good game, let's call it.
Okay.
As
You can call BS. We're allowed on the show.
since we're on a podcast. But really, every single day in our staff meetings, we say over and over and over again, discharge planning starts on the day of admission.
Right.
So we look at where they're from, where are they going back to, are they staying local and going to halfway, or are they going to a local IOP, or do we need to find an IOP in Alaska? Or a therapist in West Virginia? Whatever the case is, we make sure that they have a firm plan. Do they all follow the plan once they leave? No, absolutely not. But we do our best to make sure everything is set up for them so they can be successful if they put in the work.
So I imagine it's been a little more difficult because I'm sure there's a great deal of reliance on connecting them with 12-step programs and
Yes.
things like that. And with the COVID crisis, even now, I think in Miami, less than 1/5 of the live 12-step groups are operating.
Yeah.
Everything is still on Zoom, and that's hard to get them to connect
Yeah,
on Zoom, isn't
It
it?
is. Yeah, we talk about this weekly.
Weekly. I wish there's no secret formula. You just
Yeah.
gotta give them this information and
You
hope,
just got to
right?
do it. Yeah. I mean, we put them on Zoom meetings while they're with us. So hopefully that makes them a little bit more comfortable.
That's a really good idea.
We have started letting the last few weeks H&I come in. Only 2 people. They have to check in at nursing. They have to wear a mask. They have to have their temperature checked. But just so they're seeing a few outside people from AA, NA, CA,
Good,
whatever
good.
it is.
Yeah.
And then we do the Zoom meetings. And we also do our alumni meeting weekly on Zoom as well. So they're getting hopefully used to it a little bit. And listen, it's hard. I cannot imagine being a newcomer right now myself, because I relied on the meetings and making that human connection. And it's very difficult. I was on a Zoom meeting last week, an AA meeting, and it was awkward. It's still awkward even to me. So I can't imagine how a newcomer feels.
Yeah.
But we try to, and it's even when we set up the IOP and the outpatient therapy, they're like, it's all remote, it's all on Zoom. And it's like, how do you connect with a therapist when you're just looking at a computer screen? But we're just trying to, do the best we can and what's being given to us at the moment,
I imagine it's not quite so strange for some of the younger clients because they grew up with computers
Yeah.
and gaming and online conversations
Right.
and all of that. But definitely when you get into the older people like me,
Yeah.
it's such a foreign
Right.
idea. We do all of this here in the studio,
Mm-hmm.
and I do a lot of work like this, but I'm still not a fan like you.
Yeah.
I like being places and hugging people
Yeah.
and really just
Yeah.
that real connection. So it makes it really hard. Now, Archstone, you say you're doing like Zoom with your alumni and stuff. That's actually something that probably you'll keep going even after.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of a blessing that you've
Yeah.
found a way to do those things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because a lot of our alumni is out of state.
Yeah.
So even when we do open up and let the local alumni come back in, we're still going to keep it going on Zoom as well, because we're able to connect with a lot more alumni than we would just having the every Thursday night come to Archstone and do the alumni meeting. Because I went on to the meeting last week just because I love the clients and I want to see their faces and I want to see that they're doing well.
Right.
It's not like a prereq that Brianne needs to get on the Zoom meeting on Thursday night at 7 p.m. after I've worked 9 hours probably, or 10 hours.
But again, like we started the show,
Yeah.
because you're that connected,
I just love it.
you reap rewards that other people
Yeah.
don't get. You know, I mean, yeah, it's cool if you're building cars and you see the Chevy roll off the
Right.
assembly line and say, I put that right wheel on, you know. But to see a life come back together, it's hard to even explain how that feels, right?
Yeah. It's indescribable. I mean, I love it. I love it. Like, I'm constantly, last week, I got on the alumni meeting a few weeks ago too, so I'm trying to do it like every other week. And I get on the meeting usually on my phone because there's, you know, kids and life going on at home. And I'm like trying to scroll through to see all the clients who are on it and see like how they look and are they okay? And I want to talk to them all, but that's not the setup. You know,
Right.
so it's like, but
It's not your moment,
it's
darling.
not my moment. I want to be like, how are you? What are you doing? Like, how's your flight home? But that's not what that meeting's for. So I just kind of look at their faces and hear them talking and hear if they sound good. And I also call them. There's clients, I don't call them all because I don't have the time to call all of them. But somebody will pop into my head and I'll be like, oh, let me look up their number on Sunwave and call them and see how they're doing, just out of the blue. And they're like, thank you so much for calling. Like, about a month and a half ago, I talked to a woman who came through Archstone like the end of last December. And she just popped into my head one day and I was like, I wonder how she's doing. And she was like, I can't believe you're calling me. Like, she was so excited, took like 3 minutes out of my time,
It's amazing that, like with social media and everything, every once in a while somebody will pop up and it's like, this is somebody that I helped in recovery years ago at a different place. And, and now he's got 2 kids and he's married. He's got this great job and he's, just bought his first house. And I'm like, wow,
That's why I do what I do.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And to have just a small piece of that, I'm not responsible for anybody's recovery, but I certainly helped build, a little piece of that foundation.
Right.
I swung the hammer, gave him a few nails.
Right.
But it's a cast of thousands who help these people, and it's just such a great reward.
It is.
And I guess people who say, "Why the hell do you do this kind?" They'll never understand that, but there is loss too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I was told many years ago, don't take it personal. You have to it's gonna happen. Just let it go.
Yeah.
And I tried that and I didn't like it. I take it personal because one life lost is too many.
Yeah.
It's somebody's mother, father, brother, sister, son, or daughter. And one life lost, and I take every one of them personally. Do you take that with you too?
I wouldn't say that I take it personal. It affects me. I get sad, but I don't carry it. You know what I mean? I think about their parents. Because it's, when I hear about it, it's usually, throughout the years of my own personal recovery, I've had friends pass away, not only from like going back to the substance, but also like hepatitis or, things that happened to them while they were out in their active addiction, and they died sober people. So, but usually when I hear about it from working in the field, it's usually the younger clients, because there's so many crazy drugs out these days.
It's ridiculous.
And my first thought is always their family, and how sad for them. And I can't imagine, like, I heard 2 months ago, maybe, it was Mother's Day. When was Mother's Day?
It's in May, right?
May. Okay. So in May.
I think it's May.
I think.
Sorry, Mom.
Yeah, I don't remember. And I'm a mom, but I don't remember when Mother's Day is. But on Mother's Day...
Your moms knew all of that
Yeah,
stuff.
no, we don't.
Do you know all your kids' birthdays?
Of course I do. Do you want me to name them?
I've got them written down.
What? No, I remember.
No, I kind of remember. I can't remember the year my kids were born.
Well, they were all long, painful days for me, so how could I forget?
I was there. It wasn't that bad. Not for you, but for, I felt fine.
Yeah, of course, of course.
The hospital food, the cafeteria was horrible. I had to spend hours in there while she was giving birth.
Yeah.
It was horrible on me.
I would imagine so. It must have been really rough for you, Scott. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I guess the point is, taking it personal as far as we have to internalize that.
Yeah.
Because that's also fuel for me to keep going and say, all right, I'm going to work harder not to lose the next one. Now, it's going to happen.
Right.
But the day I can get a good night's sleep when I find out somebody is lost is the day I want to stop doing this.
Oh yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Yeah.
I don't want to be comfortable with it. I don't think anybody should be comfortable. I don't think we should accept the fact that right now the overdose deaths are up 52% in some cities because of the virus and because of the quarantining, and
Right.
people are isolated. There's depression, there's financial insecurity. There's so much going on that feeds addiction.
Yeah.
You know, first responders are stressed to the max. Hospitals are stressed to the max. People are dying alone out there.
Yeah.
It's got to stop.
There's even, I mean, I believe that we're gonna even see a higher addiction rate once this whole COVID is over.
Because we're not even recording it right now.
Yeah, no.
We don't even know. Once these people hit the street and get back into the workforces and start doing things, we're going to see the real damage.
Yeah.
You know, and we better be ready to be prepared, not just places like Archstone, but families and friends. You cannot just sit back and let somebody suffer and think we'll deal with it later. You know?
And that's just the people that have addictions. I mean, imagine all the people that don't have addictions who now have been. I mean, my sister lives in Philadelphia with her husband and their 3 boys.
I love Philly.
And
Hey, Philly.
Philly, yay, go Eagles.
There you go.
She said, when I talked to her when we were in like the middle of the quarantine, and I was going to work all day, so it didn't really affect me other than I wasn't like hanging out with friends or going to meetings and that kind of stuff. But my sister is in Philadelphia, home with her husband and her 3 boys. And she called me one day and she was like, she goes, I'm drinking every day. I'm like, yeah, well, I probably would too if I was in your shoes. You know, I cannot. And she's like, now I understand why people need to go to rehab sometimes. Like, and she's now, since she works in a hospital, she's back to work and stuff like that. But like in the pit of it, when she was like stuck at home, and she's like, the only thing that's getting me through these days is having like wine during the day. You know, I'm like, be careful.
Well, if you have latent addiction, you know, personality that, you know, maybe it's never really been triggered before.
Right.
We're seeing a lot of that now. We're seeing a lot of mental health issues as well.
Absolutely.
You know, that kind of like people self-medicate. They're scared, they're lonely, they're bored, they're depressed, even angry.
Yeah.
And they're self-medicating. I'd hate to be a mom who has got to be home, or a dad, you know, I got family who are stay-at-home dads too, but who has to be home every day with kids. Not only be home with them every day, I mean, the little rugrats aren't going off to school. They're stuck in the house. Now you've also got to manage their education.
You got to be their teacher.
You got to be their teacher. You got to help them with their laptops and their online schooling and keep them on track. And, you know, for the kids, you know, it's a pain in the butt. I got to go to school. But for moms and dads, that's a lot of stress.
I stayed home one day. One day.
That's all. One day.
One day.
Is that because you really couldn't make 2?
And it was because my 14-year-old was starting high school. So this was like 3 weeks ago, right? Palm Beach County started school like 3 weeks ago. And I said, I need to stay home and work from home on her first day, just in case there's any like technical issues or the Wi-Fi issues, because I didn't know how it was going to go. It's all on like Google Classrooms and all this stuff.
Yeah.
One day, I was like, I need to go back to work. Like this.
One day.
One day. Like I cannot imagine. And she's 14 and she's my only one left at home. She's my youngest. So I was like, how in the world are these parents staying home with multiple children, all different ages? I was like, thank God she's self-sufficient, can get on there and do her own schoolwork. The teachers can email me if there's an issue. You know what I mean? Because my hats are off to all the parents that can do that or have to do that, because I couldn't. There's no way.
Unbelievable. And again, they turn to ways to alleviate the stress.
Yeah.
And it's not, you can't go out with your friends.
Right.
You can't go bowling. You can't even go out to a restaurant for a nice dinner.
Right.
But what you can do is you can have liquor in your house, and you can have pills in your house, and you can have other things, and self-medicate yourself.
Yeah.
And that's really causing a problem. So, I mean, there's so much going on out there. We could talk for hours about this.
Yeah. There's going to be a fallout from it. I mean, I don't think it's too far away, you know, but there's going to be a lot more people needing treatment for substance abuse and mental health issues. So, and unfortunately, I mean, there's a lot of treatment centers, but I don't think that there's enough resources.
So if you want to know more about any of this, you can certainly contact us right here at Addiction Training Center at 786-514-0893. More importantly, if you want to go directly and talk to Brianne and her people over at Archstone, give them a call at the number on the screen. The number's on the screen.
Oh, it is.
I have to edit and put it right
Oh.
there. It'll be there.
Okay.
But when you're watching this, the number will be on the screen. It's the magic of TV,
Ooh.
right? The number's on. Give them a call. Ask any questions.
Yeah.
There's no bad questions to ask.
Absolutely not.
You know.
Absolutely not. Throughout my long history, I've done admissions. I've done pretty much everything at every treatment center that I've worked at, except for, like I said, therapy. But even when we take admission calls, if we can't help somebody, we look for resources where they can find help.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're just looking for a therapist or you need help for your elderly parents. Whatever the case is, we can help. So.
Absolutely. So make sure you give a call, ask questions. Don't wait. If you know somebody that you care about, or yourself is having a problem, waiting could be fatal. Yeah. Don't do that. You need the help. You need to ask the questions. You need to get people involved. Helping somebody, even though they don't want the help, might feel like you're betraying them, but you could be saving their lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How many clients do you have coming in saying hating their parents for making them go to rehab and leave loving them?
All the time. I mean, every day.
Yeah.
Every single day.
If you love people, you got to love them enough for them to hate you for a little bit so that they'll be alive tomorrow. So
absolutely.
Make sure you do that. Brianne, thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
We'll have to do this again real soon, okay?
Yeah, I would love to do it.
Fantastic.
I wish I wasn't nervous at all.
This
was good.
It was easy. I want to thank you for joining us. Make sure you check us out on our YouTube channel, ATC Network. Make sure you subscribe and share it with your friends. For now, I'm Scott Jones and my guest, Brianne. Thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time, right here, Spotlight on Addiction and Recovery.